All right. Let's go from
They get her ticket, right?
Okay. Will someone pass out this, see if they need a copy of this? Please.
And what is this? So I'm not going to hand it
Beekeepers
back.
Compliance Agreement is going to
Okay.
come in the
Who's ever not
presentation.
had a compliance agreement, raise your hand, I'll give you one. Everybody else? You're on your own.
It's been a few years. I think they're working on another one, so it might be revised shortly. All right. Don't look at my mugshot, please. Okay, so the floor is apiary industry. There's probably roughly, give or take, 5,400 registered beekeepers in the state of Florida. They roughly manage 830,000 managed colonies. There's an apiary inspection program. It's been well over 100 years since it started. On the left, as you are, technically it's right. The counties there. Okay, I am the state apiary inspector. I service 6 counties. Give you a little background. I actually started with Palm Beach Beekeepers. I joined the club in October of 2015. I received my first hive and got my first hive February 5th of 2016. So I'm approaching my 8 years of beekeeping. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so we're going to talk about the rules and regulations. Or the 601 is, you have to add Palm Beach County. That is the area that I do. And then as you can see, we only have 10 apiary inspectors for the whole state of Florida. There's roughly 500 beekeepers per inspector, averaging around 65,000 colonies per inspector. So unfortunately, we are kind of busy. Routine inspections, when we come out to your house and do a routine inspection, we are basically monitoring the compliance for best management requirements. That's that piece of paper that Eric is handing out. And we look at your yard to see if it's following that guideline. And we're also looking at the pests and diseases, because that is part of monitoring situations and problems. Another thing that we do is there's a lot of commercial beekeepers in the state of Florida. Right now they are taking hives to almond pollination. So we are exporting certificates for them. We do what is called ant-free certifications, which is technically has another name called RIFA. We do queen certifications for anybody who wants to be queen certified. There's a process for that. Eric just received his a couple months ago, Eric?
Yeah, something like that.
So a couple months ago. And I'm not sure if we're doing Tupelo honey certifications. If it is, it would be in the northern part of the state, because there's not Tupelo down here in the southern, or even central Florida. So customer service is what we based our integrity on. We deal with complaint calls. A lot of them are neighbor complaints. There is feral colonies we deal with. We deal with also bee kill response. But bee kill response is dealt by AES. AES comes out, their agriculture, environmental services. I recently got to visit with AES, go out to a site. It was a commercial beekeeper in one of his properties. He had called us saying he had, a situation with, it was roughly around 275 hives. It was very interesting to do training with AES. They go out, they do sampling, they collect samples, they do some paperwork, document it in the computer, and then they send it off to their lab that they use. Because the lab in Gainesville cannot do pesticide. It does Africanize, but it doesn't do pesticide. So then we have ag law. Ag law is another section that deals with trespassing and bee theft, if that comes up. We have an ag law that you contact them regarding that matter. Please realize we are here to help. We're not, if we're doing an inspection with you, if you have any questions, even a simple beekeeping question, you're welcome to ask. Sometimes my inspections, they turn into a little bit of one-on-one, and I'm happy to answer any questions, whatever questions that come up in your mind that you need to ask. It's not a problem. And also we're trying to keep the public, because public can be a little shaky sometimes, and we're trying to keep the public and beekeeper in a happy environment, a copacetic type environment. We also do a National Honeybee Survey. We finished most of ours now. We do sampling, which is on that container right there. and we do some alcohol, and we send live bees up, and they do surveys. They're monitoring for different types of diseases, and they're trying to look and see what's going on in hives. And what they're doing is they're creating a big database, and that's how they do that. The one in the middle is, I guess, is a sticker that they used back then. We're not using stickers now, we're actually marking. The one in the middle here with the big swarm of bees up there, I service 2 ports. I do Port of Cape Canaveral and I do Port of Palm Beach. Most of the inspectors, they do ports all around the state. We go out there, we have swarm traps in there. We're trying to see what's coming off the shipping containers, what's coming in off the port. So we're trying to monitor any of those bees coming on there to see if there's anything coming from, elsewhere, other countries and stuff like that. We also do outreaches. We do University of Florida's Bee College. We do a local bee association, Florida State Fair, and cross-divisional training, which I found out I'm going to be learning about fruit flies next month. So I guess that's some cross-divisional training. So, Florida apiary regulations are based out of Chapter 586 Florida statutes, and the rule is 5B54. That's the Florida Administrative Code. Pop quiz, true or false? Only beekeepers with 100 or more colonies must register with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. You guys are right. Regardless of if you have 1 colony or if you have 1,000, you must be registered with the state. And that's what this slide says. Each beekeeper having a colonies within the state must register with the department. Another one, honeybees may be kept only on land classified as agricultural use. Right. Florida does allow, backyarders, single family residents and all those types of situations to keep bees. Now, the trick is to that, if you are in a residential area, your regulations, which is a lot of this document here, it is this document, is that you guys have different guidelines and rules that need to be set up. Agricultural has a different, they're more laxed, basically. So if you are in a residential area, for example, you must have a water source. Unfortunately, a lot of my complaint calls, they're dealing with bees in swimming pools. Bees like chlorinated water. They tend to favor that. They like bird baths. They like fountains. They like the land on top of, if someone has a plant in a pot, they like to service up there on that soil. They like to pick the little minerals and things out like that too. They even do it at my house, and I have a pond in the back for the bees. But water source is a very important thing. People don't think it is. It's kind of a minute thing, but it is. Another thing that's important is all properties and portions thereof where honeybees are located got to be fenced in or have an equivalent barrier to prevent access. The equivalent barrier can be really heavy vegetation, but there is a height limit. Usually they want it to be, quite tall, 6 feet or so. Maintain appropriate distance requirements. It's kind of tricky because on this BMR here, it says that you can keep colonies situated within 15 feet of a property line. The beekeeper must establish and maintain flyaway barrier, at least 6 feet in height, because they want the bees to go up. Normally on this type of a hive here, you'll see them, they're just going to go directly straight out. They like to straight out. They don't have no way to go up. They want to just go straight out. So that's where that comes into play of having that barrier to force them upward. It can be a solid fence, dense vegetation, a combination of thereof. And it needs to extend both sides of the colony. Because bees don't always go up, they go side by side sometimes, depending on where your water, nectar source, or pollen is. So they move in multi-directions. The only scary thing about this here is you want to think about that. You want to think about your neighbors next to you. Yeah, you can put your hives up near there. But realize if your neighbor's out running a weed whacker, maybe they're running the mower. The bees don't like vibrations. I get a lot of calls, complaint calls, regarding near property lines and stuff like that. And also consider your neighbor, he might want to go out, he's maybe going to spray some weeds, along the fence line. A lot of people like to spray their chain links and all this and that. And you don't want that to affect your hive, because chemicals do drift. So you have to take that in also to consideration. I have a lot of beekeepers that like to put their hives up in the middle of the property. That way it's away from the neighbors. So that's also a thought. It's a thought, you really have to think it out a little bit, I guess. So the following colony densities, if you have a 1/4 acre or less, you only can have 3. A 1/2 acre or less, up to 6. And the way you can check that is if you own a property, go to Palm Beach County Property Appraisers or St. Lucie County Property Appraisers, type in your address, pull up your record, and it will list on there the size of your lot. It will have it if it's 0.24 acres or if it's 0.50. It's readily available on there. So, in case maybe you don't know. So that will give you a clue of that. All right, so inspect regularly. And what they mean by that, under the Beekeeping Compliance Agreement, you are supposed to inspect your colonies once a month. Inspect your hives. And a month is a long time, and a lot of things can be happening in there in a month also. So they also have on the University of Florida had put out a thing called swarm control. Swarm control management of beehives. Yes, just Google it. It's ENSI 160, and it's a whole page that some people had researched and did that. And it goes through all these techniques of how to help control swarms. So it's a very lengthy read. If you have time, take a look at it. All right, let me get back. All right, I survived. And finally, no deed restrictions. If you live in an HOA, you want to look at your laws of your HOA. I think you probably get a copy of that when you move in, or you could probably ask. Unfortunately, if that HOA says you cannot have bees, you cannot have bees. I will give you a strange example, and I could not believe it myself. During the summer, I was registering a new beekeeper. He is in Indiantown in Okeechobee. He has a 200-acre property. He is in an HOA. HOA says he can't have bees. I'm not kidding. I about fell off the chair. He is currently contesting or trying to deal and change that with the HOA, but I have not received the phone call yet where that has changed. So unfortunately, that's kind of where it is. Yeah. This is the Beekeeping Compliance Agreement, and yeah, it's very hard to read up there. I did not make this slide, but it's just showing you, that's the document out there. There's plenty of them around if anybody wants to grab one after the thing there. It's a good reference. Okay. After you decide you get your registration, let me bounce back a little bit here, make life a little bit easier. Okay, so after you get your inspection done and you pay for your fee and all that, then administration is going to process your stuff, and you're going to receive that document there up on the right. It's your certificate of registration. Down there in the middle and the bottom is what's called the firm number. Back in the older days, they used the thing up on the top called the registration number. And that's for the beekeepers that have been around many, many years. They don't use that number no more. It will actually come on your document blank. So now you're going to take that firm number down there in the middle. Usually starts with a 480 for the most part, depending on how many beekeepers we have now, and bounce back. And what you're going to do is place that firm number there. That firm number must be burned or permanently imprinted on the left-hand corner of your hive bodies in letters at least a 1/2 inch height. You can use a permanent marker. They do fade out. I hand painted mine, and then you can paint it on. You can go to one of the Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and buy the sticky numbers and stick it on there, get a 1/2 inch sticky numbers and stick them on there. I actually went to one property and the guy had a 3D printer, and he took the 3D printer and he laid it flat, and he had all his firm numbers raised, and he created like a plaque. And he stuck it on the hive, and he stuck 4 screws in. It was pretty nice looking. But so he got creative and did it with a 3D printer. So I guess the commercial guys here are doing, they're supposed to use a 5x9 placard at their apiary locations. Most commercial guys, they just use a brand. It's branded into the woodenware. It's branded very, very hard into the woodenware. A lot of the times they just have a name, or they'll have their last name, and then they'll have a phone number on it. That's usually how commercial goes about dealing with that for identification purposes. So it's a little different. So your beekeeping registration is for out of state. That's another thing we're doing right now with the commercial pollination. Certificate of beekeeping registration. If you are moving hives within the state, you want to keep that copy of that in case somebody happens to pull you over. Registry on each state trade and movement of honeybees. Certificate of apiary inspection for out-of-state is movement using shippings leaving the state when required. That's that out-of-state permit that's on the right. And that's what we're filling out quite a bit of them in the past few weeks. Queen certificate is required for a beekeeper who rears queens for sale or trade. Queen must come from a certified European mother line, and they also have a document similar to this that is their type of BMR that they need to find to sign and comply with as a queen certified. True or false? Is it illegal to keep all races and subspecies of honeybees in Florida as long as they do not appear to be aggressive? False. Mm-hmm. All right. So under the regulation of 5B 54-003, regulation of honeybees and pest races and regulated articles. The following honeybee pest races articles are found to be capable of damaging or causing abnormalities in honeybees, honeybee colonies, or beeswax, and are declared constitute a nuisance. The big culprits are American foulbrood. I'm very grateful I have not found one this year. And tropilolaps is what we're monitoring in the ports. That has not arrived here yet, but that's why we are going to the ports to take samples. Honeybee races that they do not like, of course, everybody doesn't like, is the Africanized honeybee. And the Cape honeybee is another one. Regulated articles are honeybee, regulated pests, unwanted races, using beekeeping equipment or fixtures. They're all regulated. Unlawful acts. It shall be unlawful to introduce in the state any honeybee pest or any unwanted race of honeybees. Knowing or sell or offer for sale and distribute any honeybees, unwanted races of honeybees, or any regulated article infested and infected with any pest declared by rule to be a nuisance or threat to the state apiary industry. Like I said, we have a lot of commercial beekeepers here, and they really take pride in it's their livelihood. So that's why it's regulated quite heavy. Knowing, conceal, or willfully withhold information regarding honeybees, honeybee pests, unwanted races, or regulated articles from the department. Knowingly receive honeybee pest products, equipment, or other articles for distribution within the state are not in compliance with the chapter without immediately informing the department and isolating, hold until action is taken by the department. Sometimes we unfortunately get calls of a stinging incident, and when that happens, we have to come out and sample the hives. So once your hive has been being sampled, that's what they also mean by it's on hold. Nothing can move from that yard until it goes up and gets tested by Gainesville to give it the thumbs up. It's not Africanized, or the thumbs down if it is African. So that's kind of what they also mean by hold.
Angie,
Yes, go ahead.
what percentage of African genetics can they have?
Right now, Gainesville is only doing the thumbs up and the thumbs down.
0?
As far as I know. Now, there's been many discussions. James Fulton runs the office. He runs the lab up there, and one time I was up there for a training, and they said they're working on a percentage that might be allowed. And I had asked James Fulton, what percentage will that be? And he goes, it's going to be based on what type of genetics that in that Africanized genes that bee will hold. So I don't know if that's going to change in the future. I don't know how far along it is. I know it was in discussion when I was up there, but I really don't know. I just know right now it's the thumbs up and the thumbs down. So, and the queen certs is also the same way. Like Eric had to go through that process as well. I had to go out and do sampling in his yard. It goes up because you can't sell Africanized queens. So he had to go up and that gets tested. So he got the thumbs up, so then he got his queen certification. So it goes through the same process as well. Movement of regulated articles, import requirements. As you can see in all three categories, carry your certificate of beekeeping registration, whether you're interstate, exporting, or importing. They want to see that document. So, and that's that document you're going to receive after you are registered as a beekeeper. So, there, the apiary inspection document from the state of origin, accompanied by the owner's name, contact information, and destination. If it's being imported into the state, sometimes for a strange reason, some of the states call it a health certificate. They don't call it a certificate of beekeeping registration. So it depends on what state they are coming from. True or false, any colony showing symptoms of American foul brood must be destroyed by fire. It's very true. Unfortunately, that is the outcome of American foul brood. And this section here talks about American foul brood. Unfortunately, that is it's a spore-forming bacteria. It is found out in nature. And unfortunately, it lasts many, many, many years. Many, many years. It just does not disappear. It lasts probably longer than I will. So anyways, all colonies found and infected and infested with American foul brood must be destroyed by burning and shall be treated using eradication, as prescribed in this section 5B54-0175 and 2 in the parentheses. This action must be accomplished within 30 days of diagnosis, and the bee colonies and related equipment must be stored and maintained in such manner that exposure to other colonies' bees prevented. Most likely, I would assume that's not on there. If you go to a yard and they have American foul brood and they found it in one hive there, that whole yard is going to be under quarantine, guaranteed. So, yes.
American foul brood is also just a frame of brood is just normally has a larvae in it, right? I just know that's
Yes.
of the.
Yes, it goes to that area in the hive. As you see in that picture up there, that is a frame of brood. See, you see your larvae open there. You see those caps? Those caps are sunken. They don't look right. You got some strange looking brown larvae in there. Some irregular holes. Those are symptoms like that.
Very bad smell.
There's some more identification for you. Yeah, they got the concave caps. If it's more farther along, you do that rope test. You can use a matchstick or a toothpick, and it will come out of there like that. And it's an obviously dead sign that you have American foul brood. There's a dry scale there, and then the pupa tongue, which you'd have to really be looking at to see that. So there's the characteristics of that. As Eric mentioned, the foul brood order hints the smell of foul brood. But usually the foul brood order will show up, it's well into progression. It's well into progression. Yeah. And there's another lovely slide, big shot there. Someone put in there. And then you can follow us on all these sites and things here. And anybody else have any other questions? Sure, fire away.
So when you said on the HOA bylaws, does it have to say honeybee specific that's not allowed, or livestock? Is it beekeeping considered livestock, or does it have to spell it out?
Usually, I think in the HOAs, they spell it out.
So if it says no livestock, is bees considered livestock, or
Well, some states it is, and some states it isn't.
what about Florida?
That's cool.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a good question.
So I have another question. So do you inspect commercial beekeepers and other beekeepers that are coming from other states that take advantage of our seasonal nectar flow,
Yes.
like Brazilian pepper? So do they have to be inspected in
Yes.
order to come through state lines
Yes.
and set up shop?
They got to be registered. They come in, they get their inspection and all that. They follow the same rules as everybody else.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. And when they leave the state, that's when we do all the out-of-states permits, whether they're going to New Jersey, they're going to California, they're going to Wisconsin, wherever they're going. Yeah. Yeah. Well, trust me, if anybody travels up and down the state with bees, the state troopers are very well aware of it, and we hear through the grapevine of what's going on out there. So yeah, they do. It's happened before. Yeah, yeah. They've stopped on the highways before. Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer that.
in the regulations, it says if you're in a residential area and you're trying to maintain bees, it has to be 150 feet away from school or park
Yes.
or anything.
Yes.
Is that 150 feet away from the perimeter or the centralized?
Anywhere that the public joins, like, I had a beekeeper that was, there was, let me see, dry retention. Their property was here, a dry retention in the middle, and a fire department. And they were not 150 feet from that parking lot of that fire department. And the fire department is technically considered a public space. We've had beekeepers who actually, or there'll be a school behind them, and then they might have a house, you know, they're the next street over, and they're near a school where the kids are playing and all that. If that thing is not 153 to that school, you can't.
And it's the school up to the sidewalks. Sidewalks are public domain.
Anywhere touching that property, unfortunately. Yeah, whether it's a parking lot or the grounds. Yeah, it gets real tricky, it does. Sure, go ahead.
So you said you hadn't found any of the foul brood?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of anybody finding it
What's
this
the
year.
prevalence of it?
Last year, they only found 2 hives.
In the whole Florida?
Yes,
area?
yes, yes.
So it's not very
That's what I heard. And I don't, actually, I was never told if they were in the same apiary. So that's so far.
They try to keep it eradicated so it doesn't spread.
Yeah. Well, most commercial, if they see something suspicious in the yard, they just, they burn it right away. They don't even want to deal, they don't want any of that in their yards. They're very good about it. Sure, go ahead.
They don't want Angie to see it either.
Very true.
If your residence is considered a agricultural
Yep.
site, is this the same agreement that you use?
No.
Okay.
If you're classified as agricultural, you do have more leeway. Yeah.
So if there's another agreement then,
No.
you can just do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, you get your inspections and all that. I would still recommend, I'm zoned agricultural, or I'm zoned ag. I still keep water out. I don't want my bees bothering my neighbors.
Yeah.
But like I said, I have a pond, so I have a pond I use. But you're not regulated to the number of hives. But
Even if the site is residential?
Huh?
It's considered agricultural because we have a nursery. So, but we're still in like a residential area.
Okay.
Does that, is,
Well, if it's an ag residential, it's different than being bona fide agricultural.
okay.
Bona fide agricultural, you have to get that from the property appraiser's office. I mean, where I live out, it's agricultural residential. But you still have to go to the process, whether, you know, to that property appraiser's office. Ask them what they require to be bona fide ag. So that's an agricultural classification is different than agricultural residential. I do not know why they call
You
it,
only get that if your property is dedicated ag residential.
right,
Okay, so in Palm Beach County, if you have an acre and a quarter, technically you could ag out your quarter acre, you have to have 1 acre for your house.
right.
And then whether it was the aggravation to go through all the stuff, that quarter acre could be certified agriculture, and then that gives you benefits as far as the property goes. But if for whatever reason down the road, say you stop keeping bees, that property value, that quarter acre, is gonna go to start back at the new level, not at the level that you bought it at. So there's things that you gotta understand when you're, you know, if you have 5 acres and you dedicate 4 to agriculture, and then say 20 years later, you're not keeping bees no more, and they say, okay, well, you lose your ag classification, or your ag, as classification.
Yeah.
Then that 4 acres starts out way higher than where it was at.
And realize,
They don't care.
and realize one thing. In the month, I used to work for a municipality, so I know this. In the month of January and February, those aerial shots that they do, when you pull up the property appraiser and you see those maps, they use a LiDAR system. It's called LiDAR. So they usually fly the planes. They're flying the planes in the month of January and February. So anytime they're flying the LiDAR, they can drop that down. I think it's now 1 foot. So they can fly over your property to see if you still have bees or not. So that's how they're going to be able to keep track if you still have hives on your property. So if they fly that LiDAR and you no longer have hives on your property, they're gonna have probably send somebody there to double check in case there's some trees in the way. And then, yeah, and then they'll know that you're not keeping bees. Yeah.
Is it still 24 per acre for agricultural?
I believe so.
And is that,
Yeah.
every county is the same?
No, every county.
No, they're different.
Every county is different.
Different.
Okay, so you have to check with those particular
Yeah, you have
Right.
to count with the county ag office, figure out what your recommendations are. A lot of them are, some of, Palm Beach County used to be 50 per acre. Used to be.
One of the counties I service, I believe that a woman tried to get bona fide egg classification, you had to have 2 acres. They wouldn't give it to a 1 acre property. And I can't remember which county it is. I think it might be Brevard, but I'm not sure.
Also, now Palm Beach County does accept 10 hives per acre, but you gotta be in production to make honey. And you have to have proof that you're making honey and selling it as a business. If you don't have proof, they're not gonna give it to you. So,
Have a certified business.
yes. Absolutely. You want to be, or whatever. We'll take-
Anything else?
We'll
Sure.
take a few more questions and then we'll move on to the next subject.
Yes. You mentioned something about the winner.
She always shows up like,
Yeah.
winner, chicken dinner. Sure.
Okay, you mentioned something before about stolen hives
Yes.
and properties.
Yes.
That actually happened to me in the last one.
Okay. Yeah, egg law handles that. Do me a favor, take one of my cards and I will get you with egg law.
If you're registered and you have your certificate, you get any protection from the state of Florida on your bees?
Yeah, if there's a complaint
In other
call.
words, what are the benefits of having your hive registered and being a registered beekeeper?
Well, first of all, it's required. And if we come out to the property and we assess it, I mean, we get a lot of complaint calls. Sometimes, man, it's like every day. You gotta realize, unfortunately, the public might not view your opinion about bees. Some people are not too fond of the bees. But like I said, the property lines and swimming pools seem to be the biggest problem. We come out, we assess the property. If there's a stinging incident, we gotta take a sample, and then we address that. We make sure you're in compliance, so that way we can report back to that person who called, whether they called the helpline, they called my phone or my supervisor. They come multiple ways. We can let them know that you are in compliance.
If you're in compliance.
You're in compliance, you're good. You don't have nothing to worry about.
If you're in
Yeah.
compliance.
Yes.
So being a registered beekeeper, having your hives in the proper location.
Very
on the
true.
property, having quality genetics in the hive, and if something happens, they're covered, and they can't make you do anything about it.
Right.
And they also will lose the lawsuit, right, if they try to sue you, as long as they're following guidelines.
Well, they can always do civil. We don't deal with civil.
Okay, two
Anything else?
more questions, and.
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment. Back in 2017, when we had the Starback Bee thing, everybody had problem with their bees, and there was a lot of complaining, which I also got because they called it code enforcement. The first thing code enforcement did was call to find out from the state if I was registered.
Right.
Yeah.
They found out I was
They
registered,
call all the
and that
time.
was the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, two more questions. You had a lady up front here, you had a question?
Sure.
Let's say the city, I'm sorry, let's say the city says, no livestock.
The city can't do that, it's right.
The state trumps the municipalities and towns. But like I said, we don't trump HOA though. HOA is a different thing.
Okay, no HOA.
Right. Yeah, we don't, whatever HOA, that's what you unfortunately signed up for, so. Go ahead.
So I registered with you, but I haven't gotten that paper.
Okay.
Does it get sent in the mail or is it an email to you?
Have you had your inspection yet?
Yeah.
Okay. How long ago?
Probably 2 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get your information. It should go, after that, it goes through administration and then they
Okay, yeah, I
usually,
didn't know how long
they
it
sent it
took.
out. Maybe they sent it by email?
Go ahead.
Oh, check and spam.
I'll check my junk mail.
Bees
Yeah.
to other livestock.
You're not allowed to have any tethered animal within, I believe it's
150 feet.
What about a chicken coop?
Not
Chickens
recommended.
can't run. If the chickens are in a coop combined, they can't run.
Yeah, you.
So if there's a stinging incident happens, they have nowhere to go. That's the fear.
How close can the coop be, would you recommend the coop be to?
I would try to keep it 50 to 100 feet away.
Yeah, okay.
At
Get it,
least.
yeah, get it away.
You know, they're not
But wait a
tethered,
minute.
and typically chickens don't bother with the bees, and bees typically don't.
Yeah.
But I had my own problem where I was weed whacking and there was a swarm on top that I forgot about, and I set it off and everything, I lost like 5 or 6 chickens that day. And I took about 75, 80 stings myself.
Yeah,
because
it's
I
not
wasn't
worth it.
here to deal with it, but I was grabbing chickens, running them on the porch.
They got nowhere to go, so just realize this, something happens,
Yeah.
they got nowhere to go, so try to keep
Yeah,
them,
you just gotta be
everything.
cautious. Okay, so.